Good morning, and welcome to our discussion on open content at OCLC. My name is Jay Holloway. I'm a product manager in the delivery services line of business, where I focus on the end-to-end user experience from discovery through to delivery. So I wanted to start with some of the research that we've been doing around open content. This is data from a recent survey that our OCLC research group put together. We had a great response, 705 respondents from 82 countries. And what I loved about this is that our group over the last year has been focused on a few different key areas that we're trying to move forward. And when asked of the participants what areas that they see OCLC best fitted to improve and move open content forward, they aligned really well to some of our current initiatives. So the first was around discoverability of open content. The next was around standardization of metadata. And the last was around special collections. So you'll see through the presentation some of the ways that we're working on each of those initiatives. In addition to that research, and there's a bunch more, so visit oclc.org/research/publications to see all the great stuff that's going on there. I'd especially check out this presentation from Char Booth around information privilege and how free access to illegal content is very attractive to users. So when our open content working group started working together about a year ago, surveying the open landscape is a huge area. So we needed a way to kind of refine and focus down what we are going to work on. And to do that, we started with a few broad areas. So the first was grouping open content into the way that it's ingested through OCLC. So one is we have business relationships where we work with content providers to bring open content in using the content and metadata quality standards that are required to go into worldcat.org. And that content includes things like gold journals, OERs, as well as hybrid content coming in through traditional means. We also have open content coming in through open sources, such as the Digital Collection Gateway, and that content is focused more around archives, special collections, and open repositories. So our focus in the first year was really on this first bucket, and the definition that we used is to inform that first phase of work. So open content is open and freely available, digital and available immediately online, is usable fully in a digital environment, and it is inclusive of public domain content where it's available digitally and online. So OCLC's open content commitment is that OCLC privileges open content to deliver on our mission. So we want to increase access to diverse open content, integrate open content into our OCLC services and products. So we've worked to improve the visibility of open content to start in worldcat.org and WorldCat Discovery, and will extend into our other services such as ILL as well. And we want to support libraries and their library-driven open content. So we're collaborating with libraries on the initiatives that are important to them. For instance, we've worked with, we're currently working with the Powney Consortia to develop more OER content and prioritize that content coming in through our ingest process. And we've dedicated staff to open content. So our working group is focused solely on this issue and is continuing to structure and make sure that we're keeping it a high priority across the organization. So this is a process that has been going on, starting open content is, we're not starting from scratch. So our ingest group has worked for the last 15 years to work with over 300 content providers, 100 of which provide either complete or partial access to open content. So here's a few. In the more recent years, we've also worked with Unpaywall, Knowledge Unlatched, and have had a long relationship with Google Books, among other fully open content providers. Having all of this information is great, but being able to expose it and make it accessible to end users is, of course, very important. So we now have in worldcat.org, our flagship open product, access to this open content. So there's now an open access filter, which accesses 50 million citations that are completely open. This is kind of a first step for us in this area. So we first started with content that we knew we could aggregate wholesale, so completely open databases to start with under this filter, and we'll continue to expand it out as standards mature and we're able to identify more and more nuanced citations. So this is really starting kind of with a blunt force instrument to pull together all of the open access that we know about, and we'll continue to refine it as we improve it. And then in WorldCat Discovery, we have access to the same worldcat.org open access filter, where you can see over here on the left, but we've also thought about how to improve the access to the material through the e-links. So we've partnered with Unpaywall to use DOIs that come in through the article citations, check them with the Unpaywall database, where they've done a great job of curating the collection to make sure that they have access to the best open version of the link. So if there happen to be multiple versions of the links, they have an algorithm that makes sure that it's coming from a persistent source that's likely to be around for quite some time, as well as making sure that it's like the final published version versus the preprint, if both happen to be available. So using that, we then inform the Access Online button in WorldCat Discovery with those links, in addition to all of the other open links that we have. So coming from 856 links in the Marc record or from the Knowledgebase. And speaking of the Knowledgebase, we have millions of OE records that are all curated by libraries. So one library curates a collection in the Knowledgebase and can turn it on and make it available to every other institution that wants to use that collection. So you do the work once, and all of the other libraries in our collective are able to leverage those links. So some of the top providers you can see there: HathiTrust, Internet Archive, and Project Gutenberg. So we've started with Unpaywall because they've done a great job of identifying some of that hybrid and repository content that has traditionally been difficult to identify. And we've also used what Marc record links that we know about, but they aren't consistently identified. So they may say something like open or open access, but we don't know how open they are, what the reuse rights are. And so there's no uniform way for us to tell from a machine-readable way that something is open or not. So we've worked with the German National Library to develop a Marc proposal that was submitted at ALA Midwinter and approved, where we are designating access to online resources in the 856 field, as well as within the 506 and 540. So we're addressing both access to the material and use. Once this gets published, we'll be able to apply that standard to our cataloging products for all citations go forward. And we're also working to retroactively identify the myriad of different ways that open has been identified in the Marc records and apply that consistently using this standard. And that's just the start. So we're going to also work with content providers to see if we can start to apply some of the broader standards more narrowly using this consistent Marc standard as well. In addition to the work that we've done internally, we're also working to outreach with our members. We're a part of CORE, IIIF, Spark, and other organizations that all care about open content. And we want to be there in the conversation so that we understand how we can help move our organization toward the goals and efforts that those organizations have as well. So as we look into the next year, some areas that we're going to continue to explore, we are doing a lot of interesting proof of concepts around linked data prototyping, and we're interested to see where that may have an intersection with open content. I mentioned that we're working with a few organizations to start to aggregate more of that open education resource content and see how we can use that within Discovery to create better academic experiences for end users. Institutional publishing, so we're kicking off some initiatives to see what is the role of the library in institutional publishing. Is there something that we can help with there? And with the repository content that's often used within institutions, is there a better way that we can identify and pull in that content to worldcat.org in a high quality and more consistent manner? And we're continuing to prioritize content that comes into us from the new players in the market that have created either completely new open content or publishing models. So that is just a broad overview of some of the areas that we're working on at OCLC around open content. If you'd like to keep apprised of what we're doing, please check out oc.lc/open, where you can see some of the different places that we're looking to present and talk about and move forward. So thank you.